Today on UW 360, from the UW classroom to the Yakima City Council chambers. Meet the young woman who returned home to make a difference in her community. Plus, what would you do if someone right by you had a heart attack and needed CPR? We'll show you the new app that could help save their life. Also, meet the Northwest logger who thought he might never see again and now credits UW eye specialists with saving his eyesight. And the UW star who came back to campus to help her coach and a new generation of softball players try to win a championship. Hi everyone, from the University of Washington, I'm Carolyn Douglas. Welcome to UW 360. Our first story today is a success story that started right here in Seattle. We're going to meet a young woman who is quickly making a name for herself as a rising political leader in her Central Washington hometown. As Stacy Sakamoto reports, she developed her leadership skills here at the University of Washington and wasted no time putting them to the test.
My name is Dulce Gutiérrez. I'm lucky enough to serve on the Yakima City Council.
In the years since she was elected,
you probably know that there's quite a few young council members.
University of Washington graduate Dulce Gutiérrez has been making a name for herself.
So this is our council chamber. This is where our meetings happen.
She was one of the first city council members of Latino heritage to be elected in her hometown.
Well, you know, I was born and raised in the city of Yakima, so to me, it's not only home, but it's an environment that I want the best for.
She's also one of the youngest elected officials. She's 27 years old.
Initially, a lot of people were concerned about my age, whether or not I'd be mature enough to deal with the stressful parts of this job, and also whether or not I had the work experience and the world experience to also understand the problems that we deal with, whether they be social or economic. A council member, and the mayor always sits directly in the middle here.
In the years since taking office, she's put those concerns to rest, juggling her full-time job with the Washington State Labor Council with her city council duties.
I do joke that it is my full-time, part-time job.
Latinos make up more than 40% of Yakima's population, but none had ever served on the city council before 2015. That's because council members were elected by a citywide ballot. In 2012, the American Civil Liberties Union sued the city in an effort to change that. It won. 7 council districts were created. Some were predominantly Latino. Gutierrez was elected to represent one of them.
I was involved in campus life at the University of Washington.
She says the Ethnic Cultural Center was a second home while she was a student. She also learned a lot just by living in the city of Seattle.
I just noticed that there was a lot more investment and even more civic engagement. I noticed that the diversity was embraced.
You're going to have a great time and you're going to learn a lot.
On the day we met her, she was meeting with students and staff at a local high school to talk about a city-sponsored mentorship and internship program.
I see myself in a lot of these students, and I am able to relate with a lot of the struggles that they're facing. Have them see someone that looks like them and comes from their neighborhood in a position like this, I think is really inspiring. For the first time, you know, we're hearing many students from low-income backgrounds saying they want to be mayor and they want to be a council member.
She wants people from all neighborhoods to have a voice in government.
This is where I grew up. This is my childhood home.
She enjoys the one-on-one meetings with constituents.
But this was a bike that I got that was just for me.
One of them is her mother, Raquel, who still lives in the house where Dulce and her 2 older siblings grew up.
Esas fotos ya no la había visto por mucho tiempo.
She credits her mom with providing a safe home and teaching her to work hard.
We have whatever we need to survive, and they went to school, and so we were happy.
A foundation, she hopes, will help pave the way for others.
I always say that I am the first Latina to represent District 1. Wow, I need to keep this as motivation. But I will not be the last.
Gutierrez graduated from the UW with her BA in American Ethnic Studies in 2013. Her first term in office runs through December 2019. Still to come, celebrating the 10th anniversary of the creation of a vaccine to help prevent cervical cancer and the UW researchers behind it. Plus, an online angel network to help save lives. Check out the new CPR app that's launching in our area. And meet the UW softball star who's come back to campus in hopes of sharing her success with this year's team as UW 360 continues.
The following UW 360 story is made possible by the generous support of BECU. BECU, more than just money.
Welcome back to UW 360. Here's one new app everyone should know about. It's called Pulse Point, and it may one day save your life. The free app creates a mobile network of CPR-trained volunteers to respond to cardiac emergencies in their immediate area before paramedics arrive. And a UW medicine physician is helping establish it here in our area.
I got off the bike and I felt lightheaded.
For Steve DeMont, help could not come soon enough. What began as just another routine ride to work for the avid cyclist suddenly went sideways when he lost consciousness at the bus stop in front of the UW Medical Center building.
Last thing I remember thinking was like, what? And next thing I know, I'm waking up in ICU, and I think it was like 2.5 hours later.
Steve got lucky. When he passed out, a cardiac nurse from UW Medical Center ran over to help.
She told me that the app alerted her, and she literally came running down 5 flights of stairs to the where I was.
That nurse was responding to an app on her phone called Pulse Point, which instantly alerts CPR-trained volunteers to respond to apparent cardiac emergencies around them. That 911 call triggered an alert to all Pulse Point app users within a quarter mile of Steve's location, which fortunately for him was right outside a major medical center.
I'm so lucky just to be where I was. I mean, people tell me to go buy lotto tickets, you know, but I lucked out just being where I was.
Think of it like an electronic call for help.
Dr. Michael Sayer at UW Medicine says Pulse Point is basically a mobile network of Good Samaritans who are trained and ready to respond to nearby cardiac emergencies. As a UW professor of emergency medicine and medical director of Medic One, he knows firsthand just how critical those moments immediately after a cardiac event can be.
If someone starts CPR before the fire department arrives or Medic One gets there, their chances of survival go up by at least double. So it makes a huge difference in whether or not people survive.
The Pulse Point app, started by a nonprofit in San Francisco, is already in use in communities around the country. Studies have shown its successful implementation can greatly increase cardiac victim survival rates. So now Dr. Sayer is working to set it up here in Seattle and study its effectiveness.
We're offering here is the opportunity for those people to help us when one of their neighbors or friends or some stranger they don't know at all needs some help.
I've been thanking everybody.
Months after his cardiac event, and now armed with 4 stents around his heart, it's full steam ahead for Steve DeMont.
I feel great. If I could jump and click my heels, I would.
He has a good prognosis and a well of gratitude for both the UW medical team who treated him and those Good Samaritans who first rushed to help him.
Whether you choose to do it or not, that's up to you. But out of all the apps out there, this is a true tool that, you know, really does make a difference in people's lives.
Dr. Sayer says he's grateful to the Boeing Employees Community Fund and the Medic One Foundation for funding and promoting the Pulse Point program in our area. If you'd like more information, just head to the link on our website. More than 11,000 women in the United States are diagnosed with cervical cancer every year. But 10 years ago, that number was far higher and growing. In fact, cervical cancer used to be the leading cause of cancer deaths of women in the United States. Today, we meet 2 UW researchers who helped develop a groundbreaking vaccine that changed everything.
We probably know more about how these cancer-causing HPV types actually cause cancer.
Dr. Laura Kautsky is Professor Emeritus in the Department of Epidemiology in the School of Public Health. Her work, along with others at the UW, helped develop a groundbreaking vaccine that protects against cancer-causing types of HPV. The vaccine available today covers the strains that cause 90% of cervical cancers.
The properties they have that lead to cancer than we know about virtually any other cancer-causing agent.
So this is an example of a kit that you could...
Dr. Rachel Weiner is Associate Professor of Epidemiology and the UW graduate.
HPV is a necessary cause of cervical cancer, meaning you have to have the HPV infection to develop cervical cancer. It's different from most other cancers because you need an infection first. In most cases, you can prevent cervical cancer from developing.
These early studies examined what causes HPV and cervical cancer, who gets it, and when.
As an epidemiologist, my role was providing data and information from our ongoing acquisition and natural history studies that would be useful for the design of the vaccine trials.
Kautsky provided information on how many women should be enrolled in the clinical trials, how often they should be tested for HPV, and other information that would help demonstrate the vaccine's safety and effectiveness.
Well, as an infectious disease epidemiologist, it's sort of the pinnacle of success. Come up with a preventative vaccine.
The vaccine, first recommended just over a decade ago, has already reduced vaccine-type HPV infections in teen girls in the United States by nearly 2/3.
You know, in an ideal world, if girls and boys were all vaccinated before they became sexually active, eventually, you know, we would have very little issues with HPV-related cancers.
Today, Weiner is working on making it easier to get screened for cervical cancer. She's evaluating HPV self-testing kits as a strategy for improving participation in cervical cancer screening.
You know, the idea is that in the future, a woman could just do the HPV test at home, and if she were negative, that would give her pretty good reassurance that she was at very low risk for having or developing cervical cancer in the near future. Whereas if she tested positive, then she would have to come in to the clinic for follow-up. A lot of the research now is just in how to scale up vaccine and how to get more of the population vaccinated.
Since most cervical cancers occur in women who have not been vaccinated or recently screened, the goal is to have every female and male receive the HPV vaccination before becoming sexually active. By addressing some of the barriers, there is opportunity to see increased vaccination and screening and ultimately reduce the number of deaths from this disease. Still ahead on UW360, he almost lost his eyesight in a logging accident. But see how UW surgeons restored both his vision and his livelihood. And a happy homecoming for celebrated UW softball star Jen Stallings. See how the national championship player is now setting her sights on coaching. We head into the dugout. It's UW360 continues. Welcome back to UW360. Each year, surgeons at the UW Medicine Eye Institute perform some 2,500 surgeries. Some procedures take just a few minutes, while others can take hours, especially if there's been trauma to the eye. Stacy Sakamoto introduces us to a logger whose vision is returning thanks to the work of not just one, but 3 eye surgeons.
My name is David Dahlberg. I work in the woods, and I had a little bit of an accident there about a year ago. We were working a job up the Capitol Forest, and the trees were really tall. Putting a cut into a tree, I was bent over, and either a limb came down and got me in the side, but it ruptured the eye, and I had total loss of vision. It was nothing but blackness in this eye.
David Dahlberg was rushed by ambulance from Olympia to Seattle. That night, a surgeon from the UW Medicine Eye Institute performed the first surgery on the logger from Yelm.
The retina was detached and folded, but the whole eye was ruptured, so the cornea, all that stuff, the lens was removed. I mean, they took that out.
I'm gonna go and take a look at the back of your eye.
1 month later, a retina specialist performed another operation. A year after that, Dahlberg underwent a third surgery, this time on his cornea.
Open your eyes for me.
It's amazing what they can do, amazing.
Here you can see the color of his eye.
And the steady hands they must have, my gosh.
Compared to his other eye.
We're very fortunate in Seattle that we have an outstanding community of ophthalmologists, but what makes the Eye Institute a little different is that we do have the complete breadth of disease. Whatever your problem is, we'll be able to take care of it.
Hi, it's good to see you.
How have you been?
The Institute sees approximately 30,000 patients each year.
No glare on that left one?
Everything from routine eye checkups and conditions such as cataracts, glaucoma, and retinal disease to very complicated neuro-ophthalmology cases.
But the artificial lens looks like
and ocular plastic surgery like Dahlberg's.
We are providing a unique care for our patient here at UW Medicine Eye Institute, evaluating the patient from different angles, and that provide the best care possible for our patient.
Eye Institute providers also conduct research in labs at South Lake Union, and they help train the next generation of doctors.
Here at the University of Washington, we're the medical school for 5 states, including Washington, Wyoming, Alaska, Montana, and Idaho. In the Department of Ophthalmology, we are tasked with teaching medical students basic eye disease and anatomy.
We're gonna get my eyeball fixed. I could see all the windows, the lights. I got the full panoramic view.
You're going all the way back.
David Dahlberg's eye is healing, and his vision is improving.
So is that a good height for you?
He and his fiancée credit the UW Medicine Eye Institute.
I didn't know anything about it until I was injured. But then people from afar say great things about this place. Oh, that went good. They're just the best facility.
Specialists at the UW Medicine Eye Institute say it was easy to collaborate on David's care and his 3 different surgeries because they all work under the same roof. Straight ahead, she already helped the University of Washington win 1 national championship. Now she has her sights set on another, only this time as a coach. See how this softball star has come home to give back to the next generation as UW 360 continues. Welcome back to UW 360. The University of Washington women's softball program is one of the best in the country. And as head coach Heather Tarr enters her 13th season, her goals for her team remain the same. Teach the game, promote Husky softball culture, and of course, win another national championship. And who better to help teach those lessons than a former player who helped Coach Tarr win a national title? Producer Rick Garza brings us the story.
Okay, we're going to our spots. We're getting rips and reps.
Our culture comes from the environment that we have every day.
The girl Kim, take that little base hit.
Husky softball demands accountability. Head coach Heather Tarr and her staff work with their players to build confidence as well as mental and physical toughness. Each year, that requires a redefinition of what she calls Husky fever.
Dogs on 3. 1, 2, 3, dogs!
We talk a lot about them. We try to redefine them every year for every team because every team's going to interpret them in different ways. But we definitely just try to create an environment where there's a belief system that allows you to be a champion, not only on the field, but in every way of life.
In 2016, a former Husky returned to campus to help teach and protect that culture.
The 2009 National Championship.
Jen Salling, a member of the 2009 National Championship team, is now a graduate assistant manager.
sometimes you only know what you know, but she's been able to come from different experiences and really speak to that when she talks to those that are in our program, and make sure she keeps everybody in line in terms of valuing what you have and being grateful for what we do have here.
I didn't know that you could play college softball and go down to America and, you know, earn a scholarship and maybe get your school paid for or part of it paid for, and, you know, like, live that dream. And I just played for fun. Like, I played sports for fun because I just loved it, you know, and lo and behold, it's literally been my life.
Her plans for when her playing career is over? Coaching is definitely a possibility. To achieve that goal led her to return to the shores of Lake Washington.
And I know the standards and the expectations of our culture and what Coach Tar expects of our student athletes. And I protect that.
For Ali Aguilar, Salling has been a role model since high school, beginning with her recruitment to Husky softball.
She doesn't really have to talk, just her being around speaks a lot for itself, because, I mean, like I said, she's won a national championship, and like, she knows what it takes.
NCAA regulations don't allow Salling to actively coach yet, but her experiences as a graduate assistant manager are paving the way to a future in coaching.
It's honestly like redshirting, but a coach. Right? You sit back, you observe, you learn, you watch, you listen. If you're able to leave here after 4 years knowing that you're prepared for your life and you've learned certain skills and abilities that are going to prepare you for the workforce, be a spouse, be a family member, be a mom, be a wife, then I think you've won. We believe it's a lot more than just winning, but like developing quality people and preparing people for the world.
When you go to a game at Husky Softball Stadium, you can't help but get swept up in the excitement. The UW women are annually one of the top-ranked teams in the country. And that does it for this edition of UW 360. If you'd like more information on any of the stories you saw today, just head to our website at uwtv.org/UW360. You'll also find us on Facebook and Twitter. I'm Carolyn Douglas. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time with all news stories from the University of Washington.